Ahoy, peeps. How are you? I am super excited to start doing this next train of videos about the Pogues. The Pogues, one of my favorites. And a quick side note too. I know I'm making a lot of videos, man. I know. I warned you. And I can tell some of you didn't watch my Pet Shop Boys video, did you? You didn't watch it. I warned all of you in that Pet Shop Boys video a little over a month ago that I would be doing this summer. One of you the other night, who was it? Caffeine Club. Caffeine Club, shout out to you. I appreciate your comments. You are a smart ass, and I appreciate that about you. Thank you very much. Caffeine Club is a dedicated watcher, and he makes some, or she, I don't know. I'm assuming a he. I apologize if it's a she. But your comments are always welcome. Thank you very much for watching my videos. I deeply appreciate your smart assery. Thank you very much. Also, Simon Black, is that your name? Your avatar is the Fine Time 12-inch. Simon. Also, thank you to you. I appreciate your deeply smart alecky comments. The more sarcasm, the better. I appreciate both of you. Thank you very much. The Caffeine Club, you told me to pace myself. You go watch my Pet Shop Boys video, man. I warned you. This was coming. You should have known this. But the truth is, I am a teacher, and I go back to work in a month. I had 2 months off, and to be honest with you, full transparency, what I wanted to do, my goal this summer was to blast out 100 videos. I want to have 100 videos by the time I stop. And then I kind of wanted to just let them sit, and I want to see what happens. I want to see what transpires after 100 videos are just out there. I want to see if my subscription base goes up. I want to see if it goes down. I want to see if my views go up or down. I wanted to put out, you know, the highest quality that I can produce in terms of just me talking about music, and then I wanted to see where it goes, because these videos tend to catch on after a while. Like you blast them out, and your subscribers and your watchers see them, and they watch them relatively soon, and then that's it initially. But then they start to gather steam, they start to get passed around, and it's cool. And it's fun to watch that. Like my Skinny Puppy Rabies video, when I posted that a few years ago, I don't think anyone watched it for the first few months, but then it just gathered steam. More and more people found it, and it seemed to get passed around. So that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to get as many of these videos out as I can, because I have the summer off. And yeah, just see what happens. It's kind of fun, you know, once you start getting some subscribers and you start communicating with them and you start recognizing their name, all of a sudden you're in a community, and it's fun. Just like collecting records, it's fun. And as always, thank you guys. I wouldn't have the community without you, so I appreciate you. But yeah, that was my goal. I'm gonna keep pumping these out. Caffeine Club, sorry dude. Sorry dudette. It is what it is. And I know you're just giving me a hard time. I get it, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much. But enough of that. Let us get to the Pogues, man. Now, I'm starting here. As I always say in my videos, I'm not going to explain who these guys are. If you're already here, I'm assuming you know. You wouldn't end up here if you didn't already know these guys. I'm starting with my favorite Pogues album. I could have started with Red Roses for Me, and I will. That's their first album, and I will talk about that. But I'm starting here, my favorite. And I'm only talking about the Shane MacGowan Pogues albums. I've always been deeply offended that the Pogues dared to keep calling themselves the Pogues when Shane left. I mean, are you kidding me? Guys, Spider, James, Philip, who's dead, I'm sorry, but Philip, Jim, Andrew, Terry, what are you doing? Daryl, why? What sense does this make? You're going to keep calling yourself the Pogues when your frontman and chief songwriter leaves? Are you out of your minds? That I never ever understood that. I realized they wanted to keep making music, but I just felt like it was a dupe. You can't try to. I know they weren't trying to trick anyone. It wasn't a secret, but man, if Shane leaves your band, you no longer have your band anymore. You need to regroup and rename it. That's a different story. I'm curious to know what other Pogues fans think of that. But the Pogues without Shane is like, you know, it's like the Smiths without Morrissey. It's like Van Halen without Eddie Van Halen. What sense does that make? Anyway, this is my personal favorite record of the Pogues. If I Should Fall from Grace with God. And this is also my entry point to the band. You know, I wasn't old enough to, when Red Roses for Me and Rum Sodomy and The Lash came out, I wasn't old enough. I didn't know who the Pogues were. This is when I discovered them. I saw the video for Fairy Tale of New York on probably 120 Minutes on MTV back in '88, I would guess. And that was my intro to them. And I ran out and bought this. First up, this is the first album that they did, I think, that really it pulled together all of their immense talents. I think Red Roses for Me is a beautiful first album. It's a little rough. It doesn't flow quite like an album should, but it's pure energy. Absolute off-the-wall energy. It's one song, and then each song, it just blows you back in your ass. There's a couple of slower ballady songs on there, but it's there are a lot of traditional songs, traditional arrangements. Not all of them are Shane songs, but it's a great first album. Rum Sodomy and The Lash, I think a lot of Pogues fans will disagree with me on this, and I'll get more into this when I do that video. Rum Sodomy and The Lash is personally my least favorite Shane Pogues album. And I know plenty of Pogues fans would disagree. Plenty of Pogues fans find that to be their best album. It's a great album. I'm not arguing that. It's my least favorite Shane Pogues album. And I say that because I don't think it's aged well. Elvis Costello produced it, and I don't think it served them well versus the test of time. I don't think Rum Sodomy and The Lash has aged well in comparison to all of their other albums, their Shane albums. When I keep saying their albums, I'm talking about Shane albums. I'm not talking about the non-Shane Pogues albums. I'm not going to do it. So I'm only talking about the Shane Pogues albums going forward. Yeah, I just don't think Costello, his production it hasn't aged well. This is a piece of serious artistry. They brought in Steve Lillywhite to produce this, and I have always thought that Lillywhite just understood this band better than anybody else did. He didn't just bring out what made Shane great. Shane was obviously and is obviously great, but he brought out what's great about, not him, but every one of these guys. And I'll get to this cover in a minute. I'll explain this. This is a true band. Every fucker in this band had a very specific role, and you hear them. This wasn't just Shane. I mean, obviously, Shane's a huge, massive part of the Pogues. But as a band, there are few better in history, in my opinion. These guys, there are 8 guys in this band, and they were tight as hell. Excellent musicians, multiple great songwriters. Jem Finer, Philip Chevron. Arguably the best song on this album is a Philip Chevron song. And you know what song I'm talking about. I'll get to that. This is an amazing, amazing record. Absolutely the Pogues' best moment, in my opinion. This came out in 1988. They had some extra time, I think, to make this. And I'll get to the record that involves why they took a little while to make this album. I think after Rum Sodomy and the Lash came out, their record label, Stiff Records, had some financial problems and they weren't able to release any Pogues albums. So the Pogues went and they did some other things. They made a movie with Alex Cox called Straight to Hell, which is an awful movie, by the way. I mean, it's fun to watch. I own it just because I love movies and I like having reference points. But yeah, Straight to Hell is not a great movie, in my opinion. I'm sure somebody else out there loves it. I do not think it's a good movie. I didn't think it was good then, and it's not good now. But they had, what I'm trying to say is they had a lot of extra time to write this. They had while Stiff Records went through all of their drama, the Pogues had a good couple of years to like come up with some insane material for this. This is one of my favorite albums. There's not a bad moment on here. Now, whether or not that's a product of them having more time to work on it, I don't know. But man, it's not just these that are good, the songs on here. It's the B-sides on the singles. I'll get to those. Every song from this period is stunningly good. Shane arguably was at his peak as a songwriter. And let's face it, this is the last time Shane was intelligible, when you could understand what he was saying. I don't mind not really understanding Shane. I mean, you can understand him. It's hard. The records come with the lyrics. I mean, you do need to have the lyric sheets for Peace and Love and Hell's Ditch to understand what the hell Shane is saying. But not always. And the music is so damn good and his voice is so great, it doesn't make any difference anyway to me. Shane is a drunken bastard and he never claimed to be anything else, and that's what makes him great. That's a misconception about Shane too. Like people, they look at Shane over the years and they say, that guy's got a death wish. I never thought that. Shane's got a lust for life, if anything. He's a drinker. That's how he has fun. I never saw him trying to put himself in the ground. He drinks because he has a lust for life. He wants to be alive. I'm not a drinker personally. I've never drank alcohol, but Shane does, and I respect that. He loves life. He's not trying to kill himself. It's really unfortunate what he's done to himself. I don't think any of us can argue that. But yeah, I always saw Shane as being a big drinker because he loved life. Here is the Inner Sleep. This is the US pressing, by the way. I will get to the little ins and outs of the actual physical release. This kind of, I don't know, this is what happens. You stuff an inner sleeve in the jacket and it gets all bunched up. This came out on Island. They were on the Island label. Here's your Island label. Were they on Island in the UK? I know they were on Stiff, but then Stiff went down. That's not code for anything, by the way. They were on Island here from this album forth, I think. Now this cover is different than any other color you find. I think the cover for all of the other editions that came out across, other than the United States and Canada, I think the US and Canada were the same. I think this was the cover, right? Those in the UK, I'm correct on that, right? This is the UK cover. Or just the European cover, right? This is the US cover. I like this cover better. I just think it's funny. It shows off their sense of humor. The one guy in here that's not in the Pogues, this is James Joyce right here. As I understand it, Shane MacGowan, a huge James Joyce fan, as am I. Great writer, Irish writer. As you know, these guys, their music was very much steeped in Irish tradition. That's not all they were. It always kind of drives me a little. It makes my eyes twitch when people refer to the Pogues as that Irish band. Not really. I mean, yeah, they incorporated many Irish themes, and they themselves had some Irish in them. But I wouldn't say these guys were purely an Irish band. These guys were just a great band, period, with stunning songwriting capabilities and musicianship that was second to none, and doing it all in harmony with each other. God, this is a good album. There's not a bad song on here. You have Andrew Rankin, Andrew the Clobberer Rankin. They called him the Clobberer because he beat the shit out of his drums. He destroyed his skins. He annihilated those things. He played them hard. You need to play them hard when you're in the Pogues. What other options do you have? Spider Stacy, the tin whistle. James Fearnley, Jaime Fearnley, accordion. There's a place for accordion in a rock band. That's right, there is. Shane, of course. Daryl Hunt, the bassist. Philip Chevron, guitarist. Jem Finer, banjo player and guitarist. Terry Woods, guitarist. This is a band of 8 dudes who are immensely talented and all on top of their game, playing together in harmony. It is something to behold, and this is their finest moment. Let's go through the tracks, shall we? If I Shall Fall from Grace with God, of course. What can you say about that song? One of the best. One of their best songs. I'm sure there's somebody out there who would claim it is their best song. One of their best. It's hard. I mean, seriously, think about it. If you had to choose your favorite Pogue song, holy God. Let me think on that one. I don't know. I should probably just keep it to this album. If songs from all of their other albums are popping up. I mean, their best song, God, Lorca's Novena, White City, Down All the Days. Oh my God, how great is Down All the Days? Well, I'll get to that album another time. That's not Down All the Days is not on this album. Turkish Song of the Damned, yeah. Like that awesome dirge of a song. And I mean dirge in a good way, all right? We have Bottle of Smoke, one of Shane's odes to gambling, just like White City on Peace and Love. Shane chose some pretty cool topics to sing about. He didn't just sing about love and politics. He sang about degenerate gamblers. Bottle of Smoke, a great example of that. Fairy Tale of New York, we all know that. Honestly, this might be sacrilege, but that is one of my least favorite songs. One of my least favorite posts. It's been so overplayed, man. And rightfully so. I think in the last half century, it's become, I think, regarded as one of the best Christmas songs of all time. That's what it is now. It's taken on a whole new life. So if I can hear Fairy Tale of New York, if I can hear Shane singing with Kirsty MacColl the rest of my life over Lawrence Welk singing Christmas songs, you're goddamn right. I'll take Shane and Kirsty over that shit every goddamn time. Fairy Tale of New York is an absolute picturesque, frame-worthy example of how Shane could shit out beautiful songs on cue. Those of you who doubt Shane MacGowan's songwriting prowess, I point you to Fairy Tale of New York. Brilliant song. I'm just sick of it. It's overplayed, you know? It's just like any album that you love dearly in your heart, but then, you hear it in times where you're not ready to hear it, and you're like, oh, well, I feel sick of that now. And I kind of feel that way about Fairy Tale of New York. Doesn't mean I don't love it. I'm just over it. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those songs I kind of skip over when I'm listening to this album. Unless it's Christmas time, then I want to hear it. Metropolis. Nice little instrumental track there. Ah, such a good song. Shane didn't have to be present for this band to be amazing. Thousands Are Sailing. I mean, is that the best song on here? Maybe. And it's a Philip Chevron song. That dude just, I don't know, he came out of nowhere and he was like, hey, Shane, I've got something for you. How about this? Boom. Thousands Are Sailing. What a gorgeous song. I mean, wow. So layered, so complicated, so intricate. The lyrics are really heady. A very moving song. One of the most moving Pogue songs there is. And I don't want to explain it. If you want to understand what it means, I'd go look it up. It's about immigration. I'll give you that much. And, especially if you're in America. I mean, that's how we all got here, y'all. You need to remember that. Philip Chevron was reminding us of these things. Fiesta. I can see why people would not like Fiesta. That was one of the singles from this album. I love it. And I think that song's just Shane being goofy. But even when Shane was being goofy, it worked. That's the party song on this album. And in an easy single, you know, it's just got that vibe. It's big and it's loud and it's fun, and you know, it is what it is. Medley, amazing song. Streets of Sorrow, Birmingham 6. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that might be my favorite on here. Yeah. That's an amazing song. One of the overtly political tracks on here. You know who the Birmingham 6 is. If you don't, you need to look that up. Deeply personal political song, and it had a lot of weight back then in 1988 when when that whole situation was going down. It was still presently going down when they released this record. You know, nowadays it gets forgotten, but it is what it is. Lullaby of London. Holy God. Again, if you need proof that Shane was on another planet as a songwriter, look no further than Lullaby of London. I mean, God damn, what a beautiful, beautiful song. Then we have Sit Down by the Fire. Fuck off to bed. Just fuck off to bed. You know what I'm talking about, Pogues fans. Fucking awesome song. Yes, Sit Down by the Fire, God damn it. What a great song. The Broad Majestic Shannon. Another one of those like grand sweeping Shane songs, you know. I remember listening to this at the time, and I'm being serious. I was listening to this and I started laughing toward the end of the album, and I think it was Broad Majestic Shannon. Each song got better somehow. I couldn't believe my ears what was happening. I remember laughing with joy. It was disbelief and joy. I couldn't believe a band this good could actually exist. And then Worms. That's when Andrew the Clobberer sings Worms, the traditional song Worms. He does vocals for that. And then it just goes away. That's the end of the album. This is just one of the best experiences you will ever have if you love music that is deeply conscious of the world around it, has a huge heart, believes in love, and has an insane zest and lust for life. This is one of the greatest albums if you want to hear an album of people being in love with life and being alive and making you feel that way, sharing that joy with you. This is one of the great albums that does that. There are few better that do it. This is a perfect album. You know, this world does not have many perfect albums. This is one of them. There's not a bad second on this record. Right here, If I Should Fall from Grace with God. Now, I don't remember the order of these singles coming out. This is Fairy Tale of New York, you know. There's Spider. He's probably sick of hearing the song himself. He's probably listening to Fairy Tale of New York right there. He's like, fuck me, I have to listen to this again, damn it. And this is the initial press. They would later repress this, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this is the initial 12-inch. These are all UK 12 inches, by the way. These did not come out in America. The album did. And one song they were thinking about releasing as a single that only came out here and didn't get released anywhere else. Kind of interesting. But yeah, excuse me, none of these got released as singles in the United States, excuse me. When you talk a lot, your throat goes dry, you know what I'm saying? So this is the UK issue. And the B-sides, Battle March Medley and Shane Bradley. Shane Bradley, wow. That's another one of those songs that really showcases what amazing musicians these guys are. Shane can take a step back. We don't necessarily need to hear his voice to know the soul of the Pogues. That rhythm section, man, they've got something to say too. And they don't have to say a single word to make themselves heard. Really awesome single. If I Should Fall from Grace with God. And you get some live tracks on here, right? Yeah. You get a remix, If I Should Fall from Grace with God. It's not, I mean, it's kind of a remix. Lily White kind of messes with it a little bit. He extends it. I think it's like a minute longer than the album version. It's a little different. It's good. And you get live versions of Dirty Old Town, Sally McLennan, and A Pair of Brown Eyes. Those are all from Rum, Sodomy and the Lash, the album that came out before this. And, you know, it's... Oh, I forgot to show the labels. You guys want to see the labels, right? Nothing too exciting to see. You know, here's Stiff. Yeah, they had some problems with their label Stiff. They had some financial issues, and they had to wait for all of that business to get worked out. And yeah, in that time, they went and filmed a movie with Alex Cox and wrote a bunch of songs. Here's the labels for Fairy Tale in New York. I didn't show those before. Now, next single, the one I was talking about, their fun 12-inch Fiesta. I like this song. I think there's some Pogues fans that don't, but I like it. It's Shane. You know, when I hear Shane's voice, I feel happy. He makes me feel better about life. Shane has that effect on me, as indeed many other people. B-sides are South Australia and Sketches of Spain. South Australia, yeah. Terry Woods sings on that. That's just a stomper. They didn't write it. It's a traditional arrangement, but that's just like a stomping loud in your face. Bam, 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 bam. And Terry Woods is screaming, and yeah. Awesome energy. Like I said, all of this stuff from this era is just pure energy with the Pogues, man. I mean, there are plenty of bands that tried to sound like this, and none of them did it very well. And bands obviously have tried to, you know, copy what the Pogues do, and no one's ever come close, in my opinion. Now, this is the single that well, this is a promo. They were thinking about releasing Thousands Are Sailing. I mean, I assume. This is a US only promo 12-inch. I've never seen this anywhere else in any other country. So yeah, it looks like Island was toying with the idea of releasing this as a single. Does anybody know why it didn't? Like, they went to the trouble to press this up, but then they didn't do an official release. It would have been easy to do, I think. I mean, you had enough B-sides to use for the US market to put on this. This has just got, it's got Thousands Are Sailing on each side, the album version. Just one track on each side, same version. So yeah, I don't know, it's weird. They're the lyrics. I mean, you know, they obviously went to some trouble and some expense to release it, but that happens in the record business. They think about releasing something, and it just doesn't happen. Now this is this. I wanted to show this as a curiosity piece. This is what they did right before If I Should Fall from Grace with God. They pumped out some tracks for the Straight to Hell soundtrack. There's some excellent stuff on here too. You know, you get Joe Strummer on here as well. He's in the movie. Joe Strummer was a good actor, by the way. And the Pogues do some acting too. In my opinion, I think the best actor of the bunch was Jem Finer. I love the scene when he's sitting there and I think he's got a pipe in his mouth, and he takes it out and all the spit comes pouring out of his mouth. Jem Finer played a good creepy scumbag for sure. But yeah, this is an excellent soundtrack. They do The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. They do a cover version of that. Rake at the Gates of Hell. That's their own song, and that's an excellent song. If you're a Pogues fan, you need to have this. I assume you probably do if you are a Pogues fan. If I Should Fall from Grace with God is on here. This version is different. This is a different version than the ones it's different from the 12-inch version. It's different from the album version on If I Should Fall from Grace with God. So if you think it's the same, it's not. It's different. Rabinga, another Pogue song. Then you get Joe Strummer. The McManus Gang, blah, 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 blah. Pray for Rain, Joe Strummer, Xander Schloss, Pray for Rain, and then you get Danny Boy, sung by Kato Rarden, who was just leaving the band. Elvis Costello's in this band too. They were together, Rarden and Costello. They were an item. And I think that's, I mean, I've heard stories and tales. That's why the Pogues didn't use Costello anymore. He ran off with Kate, and Shane wasn't fond of Costello anyway, and they all moved on from each other. I personally am glad of that. As I mentioned before, Costello's Pogues album is my least favorite. I'm going to end the video on this. This is a re-release of Fairy Tale of New York. You know, the song just kept gathering steam. It still does today. It's one of those songs that just kind of no one could predict what kind of impact it would have on the world, but it did. This got re-released in 1991. This has different B-sides on it, different packaging. This comes in a nice gatefold sleeve, as you can see. You have New York there. Here they are performing and partying and having a good time. I will show the label. The B-side, I know Maggie May's on here. Pair of Brown Eyes, The Sickbed of Cuchulainn, and Maggie May. Maggie May is an awesome cover version too. It's an old Rod Stewart song, man. The Pogues version sounds better in my opinion. Here are the labels. Nothing too exciting, you know. But if you were to buy, I mean, if you wanted to buy, one over the other when it came to the Fairy Tale of New York, I'd actually get the original, non-gatefold version, just because of the B-sides. Shane Bradley in particular. It's a beautiful song. Awesome, awesome stuff. But yeah, that is my first Pogues video, everyone. This band means a hell of a lot to me, and I've listened to them a lot over the years, and this is my favorite Pogues album. I mean, hands down, full stop. And I'll get into why I like the others a little bit less. I am maybe in the minority camp when it comes to the Pogues. I generally feel like their albums got better as they went. I know this is their third album. They had 2 more Shane albums after this, but I love Peace and Love, and I love Hell's Ditch. I think Hell's Ditch gets a bad rap. When I do that video, I'll talk about it, but that is a brilliant album. I think their first 2 albums are excellent, but a lot of it, I think, sounds a little dated. Sounds like a band getting their footing. They're still excellent. There's not a single bad Shane Pogues album. They're all amazing. This is at the top of the heap. This album just makes you feel better about yourself and the world. It makes you feel like there's an end to the madness. Unbelievably inspiring stuff. This is a band filled with men who care about what they do and their relationships with each other and the world. Amazing record. I highly recommend you listen to this if you've never heard this. If you think you know what the Pogues sound like, you don't until you hear them. Until you experience the Pogues, you have no idea, no concept of how great this band is, and no concept of what an exceptional songwriter Shane MacGowan is. He, quite frankly, I think he's one of the greatest songwriters that's ever lived. People like to call him a poet. I don't know. Sure, he can be poetic, but the dude is a songwriter. He writes the songs too. The music goes along with the lyrics. So to call him a poet, I think, is shortchanging him. He is one of the greatest songwriters this world has ever known, and I highly, highly recommend you hear this if you haven't. If you have a beating heart in your chest and you like music that moves you and makes you feel emotional, you're going to find it here. I guarantee it. Listen to this. All right, thanks as always. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.